During development of any game, there are levels that are used to test prototype ideas. Sometimes they're used to test a new game mode, try out a different toolset, or ensure quality and function of items and systems. Fallout 76 is no exception, far from it actually. 76 has more test cells than any other Fallout game, but due to the nature of Fallout 76 being an online game, the end user doesn't have access to them. Third-party tools and other exploits have been used to gain access to them, but doing so poses a risk for an account ban. That being said, I don't recommend anyone try and pursue accessing them. First, I want to talk a little bit about the vast majority of these test cells. They have a naming convention that mostly tells you what they were used for. First, they denote whether it's a test cell, a debug cell, or a quality assurance cell. Then it'll either say what it was for, such as terrain, animations, physics, etc. Then it may have a developer or QA's first name. Bethesda also has a history of having individual developers have their own named test cells. They can be interesting to say the least sometimes. They would often be broken without the use of console commands or had some functions that we weren't aware of. It's been fun in the past to try and speculate about the personality of each developer based on the things that they had in their test cell. Next, we have the infamous Fallout 76 dev room, or rather, 76 QA smoke. In late 2018 or early 2019, individuals using a third-party toolset were able to access the main developer room, known as QA smoke. Some people reported being able to access this room without third-party tools, but this doesn't seem possible as it's its own interior cell. QA Smoke has been a mainstay for Bethesda games, always being that room that holds all the in-game items. Inside there was a copy of all the base game items, including sets of power armor, weapons, including testing and debug items, recipes and plans, and most interestingly, a single named human NPC named Wubby. This discovery caused a bit of controversy, as some people were under the impression that Bethesda said human NPCs weren't possible. They didn't, but it was a clear design gamble that didn't pay off in the long run, as they would eventually spend a long time developing the Wastelanders update, which brought many of the features and systems that having human NPCs in the game would have required anyway. Next, we have Mole Miner City. This strange underground location features shacks, trains, warehouses, grain silos, and all manner of structures, including a red rocket station. This location was perhaps planned to be part of Welch, which suffers from a collapse due to the activities of the extraction industries. Or perhaps it was part of a completely different town that was completely consumed by a landslide. It's hard to say, because this place is quite strange, as the name implies that mole miners would live there, and we know so little about mole miners. Maybe this is Mole Man headquarters, or maybe it holds their secrets, or maybe it's just a funny little test cell that Bethesda made during usual development. Who knows, but I'm going with Mole Man headquarters myself. Next up is the PvP Playground Test Cell. This appears to be a cell with a motel and other shack structures, as well as a gas station and a Corvega building of some sort. Its layout seems to indicate that it was either just a test cell for developers to mess around with PvP mechanics, or that it may have been a prototype for a dedicated PvP mode like Team Deathmatch or Capture the Flag. It would have been awesome to have a dedicated PvP mode that wasn't Nuclear Winter, which takes too long to queue for sometimes. Then you gotta wait in the lobby, then you just get killed by some random guy with a Gauss shotgun because he loaded in faster than you with his SSD. Yeah, that happened to me multiple times. I'm salty about it. Sometimes it would have been better just to get right into the action and then get right back into the action after you inevitably die. Next up, we have the PvE Wave Survival Prototype Cell. This level starts with a set of doors that read very easy, easy, medium, hard, and very hard in neon lettering. After walking through one of the doors, there is a circular drop in the floor. Below, there is another room with a closed door and 2 rectangular windows, then another drop in the floor. After that, you drop into a large, industrial-looking room with catwalks and pipes. It seems that this was a prototype for a zombie-style wave defense mode, where enemies would continue to spawn with increasing difficulty. I would also speculate that ghouls would be the enemies for this game mode, because they are already quite zombie-like, and there also are radiation barrels in some of these little side rooms that seem like spawn points. Seeing as PvE is the focus of Fallout 76's fanbase, I think that a mode like this would have been well received if it worked well enough and had a good time to reward ratio. A horde defense mode is a commonly requested feature, and I think it would be a lot of fun. Next, we have the early prototype for Vault 96. This was back when this area was planned to be a vault raid, but seeing as that type of content was cancelled, there was no use for this vault interior. That is, until it got repurposed to be a location for daily ops and featured in the Steel Rain questline. While the core structure is mostly the same, there is significantly less ice. There was also this large computer mainframe and numerous cryopods. There were also other vault raid features like repairable pipes. Vault 96 had some interesting lore around it before these changes were made, and it was repurposed, but I'll leave that for another video. For now, it's interesting to see the difference in design in this earlier iteration, and to wonder what could have been if the raids weren't so broken. Next, we have the early prototypes for the upcoming Expeditions feature coming in 2022. We know that the first expedition we are going on is going to be to the Pit, or Pittsburgh, but there are also other test cells that have been in the files for some time now. One of them seems to be DuPont Circle in Washington, D.C. This would make sense as some of the settlers and Foundation reference D.C. as well as the Pit in dialogue. Another cell seems to be Chicago, with a river spanned by several short, low bridges. The Chicago area was featured in Fallout Tactics, and while that game isn't canon, it would still be cool to visit that city and find out some of the lore. There are also some other cells. One seems to be a dense urban area, and another seems to be a more rural location. Maybe New York is in consideration. I think that was one of the locations that was considered for Fallout 4. And perhaps there is some remnants of very early pre-production from that game that could help. Another location I have seen requested a lot is Kentucky, so perhaps maybe we go to Louisville and explore the Fallout equivalent of the Louisville Slugger Factory and get a special baseball bat. I've actually been there, it was pretty cool. And I really want to beat some ghouls to death with a special baseball bat. I really do. These cells have been in the game's files for some time, and are clearly indicative of very early prototyping, so I wouldn't read too much into them. But it's fun to speculate. Fallout 76 has a lot hidden away in all of those test cells that we don't have access to, I'm sure. Maybe someday we will get to take a peek inside and learn more about the development process, just like we have been able to with previous games. But until then, we will just have to wonder. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like and subscribing. If you do, Todd will watch over you. If you don't, well, the purveyor will have her way with you.